Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to turn things over to DJ Martin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Business Series conversation. Our topic for today is launching and loving internships. My name is DJ Martin, Director of Advertising for the Portland Press Herald. Our Business Projects Editor, Carol Coultas, will be moderating the panel discussion to plan for a summer intern and is joined by experts to tell you how to do it and where no-cost help is available. Before we would begin, I would like to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors for their support of our program. Thank you to Cross Insurance, Katahdin Trust Company, Goodwill Northern New England, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, and our presenting sponsor, Machias Savings Bank. Here to say a few words is Jim Edwards, Senior Vice President of Cash Management Solutions.
Thanks, DJ. And good afternoon, everybody. I am Jim Edwards. I'm the manager of the Cash Management Solutions team here at Machias Savings Bank. We've been working with Maine people and Maine businesses since 1869, and we've been a proud part of the community in Portland here since 2014. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to be the presenting sponsor of the Press Herald's business event series this year. We've been growing quickly in Southern Maine, and we currently have more than 25 full-time team members focusing on helping businesses and nonprofits find their yes. We're a proud partner with folks like Luke's Lobster, Lone Pine Brewing, and Mainly Tubs, and our friends at MedRhythms, who you'll be hearing from today, along with many others. As your business grows, the natural next step might be to include expanding your workforce, introducing opportunities like the internship program that you'll hear about today. But whatever your next step might look like for you, Machias Savings Bank is here to help you and help you find your yes. Thank you and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Jim and Machias Savings Bank for your support of this series. With that, we'll turn it over to Carol and her panelists. We hope you enjoy.
Thank you, DJ. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. You may think that this is a little strange for us to be looking at the topic of internships in September. Typically, that's when everyone's returning to school, and you're not really thinking about that, the opportunity for work at that point. You're worried about getting through your next semester. But as you'll find out, this is exactly the time that people should be considering launching an internship program if they don't have one already, or refining one that they may already have. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and we'll be talking about those with our panelists, but I'll just touch on a couple of those reasons. A lot of colleges and universities today recognize that it's essential for their graduates to have some firsthand experience, some experiential learning opportunities in their field of study, and are increasingly making internships a requirement of graduation. Some of those colleges are helping support that by offering fellowships, and others are doing other kind of matching services to help their students find a suitable internship for them. The other thing that's happening is right now, which is not news to anyone, I'm sure, who's been operating a business in Maine in the last couple of years, but we're facing an unprecedented workforce challenge. And for many businesses, having a good internship program where the interns get a lot out of it and the companies get a lot out of it has naturally produced a pipeline for new hires. And so in this time when recruitment and retention of a skilled workforce is more essential than ever, investing in an intern program is actually a really good strategic move. In fact, when Focus Maine launched their internship kind of oversight program in 2017, there were about 20 employers who participated. Last year, or I should say last summer, there were close to 100. And so competition for good interns is also increasing. And so that's another reason why you should be paying attention to what our panelists have to say in order for you to get the most out of an internship program. So let me introduce our panelists just very briefly, and we will begin a conversation I would ask if you have questions for our panelists to please use the Q&A button on your Zoom navigation bar. And our behind the scenes guru, Strawberry Mojni, will queue up the questions when we get to that part of our conversation. Several of you submitted questions in advance when you registered for this event, and so we have those ready in the queue as well. So let me introduce our panelists and off we'll go. First up is Kate Howell. She's program director at Educate Maine, where she runs the Maine Career Catalyst. It's a program focused on expanding experiential learning opportunities and professional development for interns in the state of Maine. She's kind of operating a one-stop shop if you're curious about internships for your business. Prior to joining Educate Maine, Kate was an HR generalist at a biotech company in Portland, focusing on recruitment, career development, and university relations. She led a national university relations program and brings a wealth of knowledge in the area of internship programming and university partnerships. She holds an SCP certification from the Society for Human Resources Management. Also joining us is Justin Morrill. He is the manager of software engineering at Tyler Technologies, where he's worked for the last 2.5 years. He joined them straight out of college and has worked in a variety of roles across support, quality assurance, and development teams. In his current management role, he has been actively interviewing and hiring interns for the last 5 years. And finally, we have Brittany Mailman. She is the head of people and culture at MedRhythms, Inc. And if you don't know MedRhythms, that you really should put them on your radar. It's a really interesting startup company that is using neuroscience and music to help people overcome mobility issues. She's been an HR professional for 10 years, has extensive background in many functions of HR at both small private companies and large public ones. And she says that her exposure to exemplary leaders has helped form her management philosophy and style. She sits on the board of directors for the HR Association of Southern Maine. So welcome all of our panelists, and let's get right to it. So the first question goes to you, Kate. You said fall is a really good time to start planning for summer interns. So expound on why such a long lead time. What are the steps a business should take to launch a new intern program or refine an existing one? And then Justin and Brittany, can you join that aspect of the conversation and tell us a little about your respective employers and share what your internship planning cycles are like? So Kate, take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here today with this panel. We work closely with Tyler Technologies and MedRhythms in our program. So excited to have their insights on this panel too. I think all the things you touched on earlier, Carol, were spot on in terms of thinking about interns and why interns are important. But the question about why would you even want to start thinking about it in September? I know that a lot of people start thinking that way. And honestly, there's a difference between planning and thinking about it and actually recruiting. And we'll hear from our other folks on the panel about that, I'm sure. But certainly, thinking about what is your budget timing? When do you need to start thinking about what your budget is going to look like for next year so that you can ensure that you have the funds to pay for an intern? And then knowing that everyone who's doing recruitment for any position can tell you that it takes longer than you think it will. So thinking about it in the fall allows you to plan, right? What positions do you want to fill? What departments do you want to have those positions in? Which managers are poised to be successful in having an intern working for them? Or maybe even who might benefit as a skill building, right? Someone who maybe doesn't supervise in a position now, but having an intern work for them could be a good first step in seeing them in a supervisory role. All of those questions can kind of lead to other questions about where an intern might be a good fit in your organization. And so having those conversations now and thinking about those now will make it really easy to pull the trigger and be able to have job descriptions, be able to post things even after winter break, right? So you can interview in February and March, and then have hires in April. And so when you think about it that way, it kind of makes a little more sense. But really, a lot of the questions that I tell people is just start thinking about what projects do you need done? What's been sitting on a shelf that would really be a game changer if you got it accomplished and you haven't had the time? Those are really meaningful experiences for students. And so starting to think about those things now will help you kind of help design some of those positions that might exist. But I'm interested to hear from Brittany and Justin about their cycle and kind of when they start thinking about it versus when they start recruiting and how those things might be different.
Perfect. Justin or Brittany, either one, who wants to go first?
I'm happy to start.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm so happy to be here with the group, the panelists, and looking forward to getting into some great conversation today. So as mentioned, I am the head of people and culture at MedRhythms. And just to give you a high level overview of MedRhythms, we are a digital therapeutics company. It was founded in 2015, located and headquartered here in Portland, Maine. Our mission is to positively impact the lives of those living with neurologic injury and disease by building next generation neurotherapeutics, by leveraging the power of music and technology to really redefine what's possible in brain health. And the platform that we're working on is combines sensors, software, and music with this advanced neuroscience. And we're working on a pipeline of digital therapeutics across a range of different conditions, including stroke, MS, Parkinson's disease. Lots more information on our website. Happy to talk more if folks have questions. It's a little jargony, but that's an overview on who we are as a company. We do have a hybrid team, though we are headquartered here in Portland, but we do have employees all across the United States. But as far as our internships, so interns have really played a really important role as long as MedRhythms has been around. And we're really fortunate to, obviously a majority of our interns happen over the summer, but we do have them throughout the year. We have a great partnership with RU and Northeastern, which is more regular co-op internships throughout the year. We also have quite a few interns who intern with us for the summer and then end up staying on in a really reduced schedule and kind of part-time through the school year, which has really benefited them and their growth, as well as us as the employer. And just to touch on what Kate mentioned as far as planning, so we start planning now. September is usually the kickoff. I have a reminder in late August to start thinking about next summer. And we attend a whole bunch of different career fairs, both on site and virtual, at a number of different schools and organizations. Obviously, that looks a little bit different now with COVID, but I think we're getting back into a better swing of that this fall. And personally, most of the roles that I've had throughout my tenure in HR, our goal has always been to get summer internship offers out before the holidays, which might seem very ambitious, but that's where we found the most success. And in a lot of cases, some particularly, I would say probably larger companies that have a lot more resources, we've found that students have already made commitments by the time we get to them in Q1 or Q2. That said, we've had lots of success, bringing on interns or securing them in the first half of the year. But as I mentioned, we do spend a fair amount of time going to career fairs and things in the fall, and then we try to move really quickly and put some offers in front of those students before the end of the calendar year. So we're kicking things off now and working on that. But that's our overall process as far as internships goes. So I'll pass it over to Justin.
Well, actually, before we do that, before we hear from Justin, Brittany, let me just ask you, so you have a relationship with RU and Northeastern, but are you attending career fairs with other universities? And if so, how do you pick the ones to go to?
Yeah, that's a great question. For better or worse, it is a decision that we have to make based on bandwidth, right? We need to make sure that we have the support to be successful at the career fairs, because we could, sign up for a whole bunch of them and do them halfway or 25% of the way, which really wouldn't be beneficial to us or the students. So this year we're going to 4 different fairs, both virtual and in person, some schools in Boston, some HBCUs, local, things like that. And again, some in the fall, some later, some specialized, like might be an engineering job fair or career fair versus a, overall school career fair. So that's going to be something we hope to build as we grow. Our team, our people and culture department is still fairly new, so we're working on getting that set up. And I hope over time and over the course of the next year or so, we'll be adding more.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, tell us about Tyler
Alrighty.
Technologies.
So thanks everyone for having me here today. Tyler Technologies has a very big presence in Maine, as some of you may be aware, or you may not be. But we are, like, globally, we are a very big company. We have huge presence at our home office in Texas and all throughout the United States and Canada and Philippines. But kind of just to focus on, the offices that we have in both Portland and Yarmouth are, two of our larger offices that make up a big chunk of our workforce. So, we do, if anyone's familiar, we do a lot with at least the offices here in Falmouth and Yarmouth. Our biggest focus is on a software that is basically used to run the day-to-day of, a town, a city, anything local government related or schools. So if you think about, you need to pay employees, you need to recruit people, you need to process property taxes, you need to create the utility bills. We create software that does all of that for a lot of municipalities. So, and we actually do have a lot in Maine. So if you live in a town like here in Yarmouth, I know they use our software. So all of the property tax bills and utility bills that I get, they come out of our software. So it's kind of cool to see that in action. But since we do a lot here, our internship cycle, we usually start it we plan now, but we actually do the recruiting and interviewing pieces in December, and then actually hold the interview days in January. Prior to the pandemic, we would do all of that in-house, like in the office. So we did it in January because that was generally when, students would be home from college on winter break, and they'd have the availability to actually physically come here and interview, face to face with folks, because, it's harder to do that during the school day. But once the pandemic hit, obviously we had to switch to remote. So we still held the schedule the same because it gave students the flexibility and when they could do those interviews instead of trying to schedule everything around classes. So we do a lot of, January is the really heavy hitting, recruiting, getting interviews on the books, talking to folks, and then we turn around and make offers to those folks pretty quickly, because as you can imagine, especially when we're talking, on the software development / engineering side of things, it can get pretty competitive in that marketplace. So the sooner we can get to the best of the best and get those folks in the door and talk to them and make those offers, they may not be willing to turn down a really good offer from a company, especially if they're interested, and especially if they're local. We want to get people in the door too. We can do a lot of it remote, but there's always something to be said about them getting a little bit of that team camaraderie and face-to-face action here in the office. So
I'm just curious, Justin, when you're interviewing someone for an internship at Tyler, what are you looking for? Are you looking at their academic achievements? Are you looking at their personality and how they might fit in with an existing team? Are you looking for references? I'm just curious how you have a very specific role at the company and you're looking for a very specific kind of intern. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I think everything I think you hit on, Carol, is really what we look for. We want to make sure we're pulling someone in that's going to be a good culture fit for whatever team is interviewing them. It's obviously different interviewing interns than it is, interviewing people for open positions, because with people open positions, we're actually looking for folks that have maybe some certain experience, where the interns, we like to see not only that they've taken kind of some of those core classes that would help build upon what they're going to learn here, but also, do they have the drive to do, and looking at it from the software engineering side of things, do they have that drive to do some of their own side project? Are they interested enough in this to create their own game or write an app that would make their lives a little bit easier? usually those students that are driven to go a little bit above and beyond just the schoolwork are the ones that really have the passion for it and the drive, and are the ones that come in here and hit the ground running and just want to learn and absorb, and they make to be really good interns.
Cool. And Tyler has a relationship with Maine, right? With the engineering school there?
Yep, correct. We do a lot of recruiting through there for internships and for open positions. We're opening, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but we're opening a new office in Bangor that's right down the street from Maine. So it's going to be, or actually it's in Orono, not technically in Bangor, but like literally at the head of the campus. So we're going to be really making our presence known further up the state too, that we want the students from Maine. So we'll put ourselves right on the map.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So then how do you go about ensuring that the internship program, excuse me, that you're creating is both beneficial for the student and beneficial for the company? So Justin, why don't you take the floor since you're sort of already on it?
Sure.
Take that first.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that we do is we get our interns involved in all of the same day-to-day stuff that anyone else on the team would be doing. Sometimes we'll have projects going on and we will need more people to help with those projects. But, for example, for this year, our intern that we had this summer, he was in doing the same stuff that we had everyone else on the team doing. So he's in our source code working on all of the same bugs or enhancements or anything that we need to get out the door that any other member of the team would be working on. So really helping them know that what they're doing is actually work that's going to hit the field and is going to see the light of day, and people are going to actually use it, as opposed to potentially some instances where they could have somebody working on a project for the entirety of this summer, and then they just can the whole project because it was just seen as busy work. So we'd like to get people working on stuff that is actually going to get out the door and is actually going to play some like meaningful role in our end users day to day.
Yeah, we have that same philosophy here at the Press Herald. I oversee the intern program here, and it's basically baptism by fire. We take student journalists and we give them assignments, and off they go. And they get to see their published work after, they've had guidance from veteran reporters and from editors, but they have a byline and a story that's in the mix with other journalists, professional journalists. And it means for them, it means a lot that they've got something very tangible to show for their intern experience.
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it, the baptism by fire. I mean, we have to get people up to speed so fast to make the time during the summer worth it. So we get them up and just running and working right in our base source code, which is nice.
What do you do, Brittany? How do you ensure that you have a good experience for the interns and for the company?
Yeah, so I would echo all of what you both said. Making sure that their work is meaningful and purpose driven, and not just like a busy work project, which obviously that's not beneficial for anyone. The other thing I'll say that's really important to us and our internship experience is integrating them into the company and the culture as if we would as a full-time employee, which takes up time, which is incredibly valuable and time well spent. Just ensuring that they not only feel a part of the team that they're on, but the entire company and the culture. We also spend a lot of time, getting them a feel for Portland as well. We're located in downtown Portland, and our team organizes different fun outings and things going on. We utilize all the great programs that Kate and Maine Career Catalyst puts together. Just really building that connection, because again, if we're thinking specifically about summer interns, it's such a short period of time, and if they're not from Maine and they don't have family or friends here, it can be isolating. And so making sure that they have a lot of added value that they're getting outside of just their day-to-day work as a part of their internship. So I think that that's a really important piece that we put a lot of focus on.
Interesting. Kate, you have anything to add on this particular question? How do you ensure that it's working for the company and for the intern?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what Justin and Brittany said. I think that like sense of purpose and knowing that they're working on projects that are similar to what they'd be doing if they were a full-time employee is really critical to engage students. And I think knowing those things and seeing that kind of thought in even in job postings and like when they're going out and recruiting is probably what's getting them some of those top students, because students really want to be engaged at that level. So I think that, and then as Brittany said, hopefully getting involved in Maine Career Catalyst and engaging them with other interns around the state. And I know we'll have a chance to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I think that for a lot of smaller businesses, they shy away from considering internships because they have a hard time envisioning or assessing what kind of work would be involved in that and the perceived costs. So Kate, talk a little bit about the free and low cost resources that Educate Maine makes available. And then Brittany, after Kate talks, can you talk about how MedRhythms, which is, it's a startup, it's not as small as I thought it was. We were chatting before our webinar today and Brittany was saying they have 38 employees now, so that's fabulous. But how did you guys make the decision to recruit interns? And I know that discussion focused a lot on bandwidth of your existing staff. So Kate, first tell us about those resources at Educate Maine, and then Brittany, if you could talk a little about your process for feeling you had the bandwidth to take on an internship.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to share about it. So as you mentioned in the beginning, I'm a program director at Educate Maine, and I run the Maine Career Catalyst program. The great news is that Maine Career Catalyst is free for employers and free for students. So that's just, first of all, it's all free. And I am happy to be a resource. As you think about those initial conversations, about having those conversations about what projects might be helpful, what might be useful to a student, where do you post the jobs initially, and that kind of thing. That was the roles that I had in my corporate positions prior, and I'm happy to bring that experience into the conversation with anyone who wants to have it. Whether you're thinking about joining as a partner for Maine Career Catalyst, or you already are, or you're connected to us in another way, I'm happy to have those conversations and be a resource to everyone. But as students get into the program, so basically how it works is I would talk to businesses, whether you're human resources or a direct supervisor that might be looking to hire, and really start to talk about that partnership that we might have. And really, we don't place interns. So it's still all about the business and the processes and the recruiting that you still want to have. But then once you hire them, we invite them into our program, and you'll see up on the screen just kind of some highlights of kind of what's included and what's some of the benefits. So traditionally, we've worked with summer interns. We're expanding that as we start to work with more apprentices, more businesses start to work with co-ops, whether that's through the Rue Institute or otherwise. So we're looking to expand that to year-round, but it traditionally has been in the summer. We know that's when a lot of businesses hire their biggest and strongest group of interns, and most of them are full-time. So our program, Maine Career Catalyst, is free professional development programming, social activities, and networking. So for small businesses that feel like, you don't have all of the bandwidth, you don't have the resources or financial resources to be able to put on different events, or maybe you're only hosting one intern. It's hard to put them into positions where they can learn from all the different leaders that you have or hear about different opportunities. And we're here to make that happen for you. So we can be all the bells and whistles. We can be your program for all intents and purposes, where you're offering a really strong internship and experience on the job, and we can do all of those extras. So we do virtual and in-person, whether it's skill building, seminars. We do a lot of panels, which goes to helping to expose students to different industries that they might not have considered, different professions, different career paths. This summer we hosted one on winding career paths, kind of where do you start from, and where might you end up as a leader? And so hearing from different people about what their paths looked like and what their journey was can really help students see all the opportunities that are here in Maine. We do some on, leadership and communication. We do lots of networking events. We hosted our first students and professionals of color networking event that was across all industries this summer. It was really exciting. We had about 50 to 60 students and business partners there to network and build a cohort of mentorship, which was really exciting. And then as a partner, we also offer free job postings on Live and Work in Maine for all internship positions. We really want to build a place where students can access all the different opportunities, but also see all of the different opportunities that are out there and really help facilitate that knowledge that Maine has a lot to offer. And there's a ton of businesses here. And so, yeah, I'm here to help support people if they're trying to have that first conversation and get started, or if you're already along the way, but you just haven't been involved with us before, to be able to just reach out and talk about partnership and get access to all of our different activities.
And all of those are available to nonprofits too, right? There was a question about that just popped up, but yes, it's nonprofits, organizations of all stripe.
Yeah, any employer that's hiring experiential learners. So we have intern trainees, fellows, co-ops, apprentices, interns who are all a part of the program. So we work, even if the name isn't intern, we can work with you. We'll try to figure out how it might fit into that, if it's experiential learning and it's flowing into that. And as I said, like Tyler Technologies and MedRhythms both are a part of our program. So
good, thank
big
you.
or small.
So Brittany, talk to us about how a startup figures it has the resources to host an intern. Because I think that to me was surprising when we had our conversation, and that, most of the people I know who are involved in startups are just running from one crisis to another. And it's a success when you make payroll. So having the wherewithal to think about interns and how they might help the company grow, I thought was really intriguing. So take us a little behind the scenes there. How did you guys come up with that notion and come to the realization you could do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can't do it alone, which is why I'm so grateful to have Kate and the team. And I mean, we have so many resources in Maine. And so I'd encourage folks to talk with Kate and with others. And you feel free to reach out to me or Justin or whoever, if there's ever anything that we can do to help. But I think that just the simple fact of acknowledging how important it is and how valuable it can be. I mean, it's a pipeline strategy. Like you think about developing your future workforce, and you're spending the time now to have the success later, while also helping not only that intern or those interns, but hopefully our big goal is that someday these interns will come back and work for our companies here based in Maine. And that's what we all want for each other and for our businesses. I mean, I will say MedRhythms has been around since 2015, and we have 5 employees today who were all previously interns, which is about 13% of our workforce. So that's pretty great. So we're excited about that. So while that might not be as fast or as high as we'd like it to be, it still is pretty good. So if that gives you any motivation, hopefully for folks who are thinking about it, I encourage you to spend some time thinking about where it can be helpful for you. And we talked a lot about how important it is to have these great experiences for students, because there's nothing worse than investing time and energy in an internship, and then the student doesn't have a good experience, whether that's the project or the work that you gave them wasn't meaningful or fulfilling, or they didn't make those connections, whether at the company or outside the company. Those are the things that folks remember. So that's the stuff to keep in mind. But to your point, Carol, around bandwidth is so important. We need to make sure that we as a company are willing to invest in the time and energy to make sure that that intern has a good experience. And you can think of it as, I don't want to sound daunting, but like the same amount of work and energy you'd put into hiring a full-time employee, and making sure that they're set up for success. And in some cases, you want to think about the intern and making sure that they have the resources to be successful. This might be their first sort of professional opportunity, and thinking about how we are impacting their development to become a professional as they think about what their life is going to look like after school or after the whatever the things they're doing now. So I think it's a really important responsibility that we have as employers to consider and think about not only developing their skills and in whatever specific area their internship is in, but helping to coach and mentor and develop them as a professional. That transition from school to a work environment can be challenging for many. And so what is it that we can do through our internship programs to make that transition easier, set them up for success as a future full-time employee wherever they end up. So I know that sounds daunting, but it's really just spending the time and treating an internship like you would treat any full-time employee, because hopefully in the long run they will be, right? Either for you or for someone else. So that's really the way we should look at it, and invest that time and energy.
Cool. And Kate, let me ask you, because you mentioned this in your answer to the first question. You had said possibly a good exercise for some company or organization that's considering bringing on an intern is to look at a project that has not been done yet and figure out, is it worth $5,000 or $7,000 or whatever the pay might be that you could afford to hire an intern to get that project from being just totally stalled to being complete. And I wonder, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's really one of the examples that I often use is what is it costing you not to have that done? Mm-hmm. And what would it really cost you to bring it on and what benefit would it bring you to get that project completed? And it might be financial, right? If we're talking about like getting some software completed, but it might be about business development. It might be, bringing in an intern to help do some, market research. It might be an intern to help bring in a new system, get a new system off the ground that's actually going to give bandwidth to a whole bunch of people on your team. So thinking about what the benefits are going to be long-term, not just for the intern or for, essentially what a marketing strategy that Brittany just talked about, which I love, right? We're selling Maine and our companies as really great places to work, and to get great experiences, but also the long-term benefits of the organization. So what's the input cost of bringing on an intern, but what are you really going to get out of it? Because oftentimes people think like it's just costing me extra headcount, but really if you're thinking about it in terms of project and bringing something to fruition that can give you, more bandwidth, get you further along on a project, give you more information to go out and build your business, then the cost benefit is a little bit different.
Okay. And Justin, do you have a sense of how many of the interns that you hired at Tyler have gone on to accept full-time positions with the company?
Yeah, we're around 30%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Brittany, there's a challenge there. You're at 13, Tyler's at 30, so you got to step up there.
Significantly larger employee base too,
Yes.
but
yes.
Yeah, it's around 30%. And we do, not only are we, hiring those folks, we're usually extending them offers in the following winter after the internship. But we,
Oh, wow.
we do regularly too have a number of interns that will stay on part-time throughout the school year too. We do get approval and have the ability to offer our interns that flexibility too. So if they're, going into their senior year and they have a lighter class load, we give them the opportunity to see if we can fit, some part-time work throughout the fall and the winter as well to keep them going, keep them engaged, keep them interested. And then of course, if you throw a job offer out to them during that time frame too, they're always ecstatic to have that lined up well in advance of graduation. So
sure. Great. So this is my last question to the panelists, and then we'll turn it over to questions from the audience. And that has to do with housing, because like anyone who's hiring anyone in the state is dealing with a housing challenge. And I think it's especially difficult for interns who are looking for temporary summer accommodations. So do you have any advice for folks who are looking to bring on summer interns, but are really sort of stymied about where are we going to put them up, or how can we help them find lodgings? And I know some of the community colleges and universities will make dorm space available sometimes over the summer. I don't know, Kate, maybe you can speak to that a little bit, but what do you advise folks for housing?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a challenge. And I certainly am sure Brittany and Justin can talk about recruiting from out of state. It can be difficult. As I look at the makeup of students who are part of our program over the summer, I mean, Career Catalyst, about 60% are Maine residents, and about 60% go to school in Maine. So we know that even if they're going to school out of state, right, some students are going to come back and be here for the summer. So engaging those students who want to come back for the summer, who have housing at home, is always positive, and engaging students who have housing through their university so they can stay for the summer, or that they are living off campus and they have that housing. It's always a challenge. It's certainly a challenge for coastal communities where, temporary housing over the summer is sold by the week at the cost that one might not even hope they paid for a month. But, as you said, there's opportunities with universities. I know that USM is actually hoping, I'm having some conversations that their new Portland housing will be open to interns in the summer this coming year. So there's a chance that could be happening in addition to the regular Gorham campus that they always open. So I mean, definitely talk to the local colleges, but I know that a lot of interns have also had success in subletting from other interns. So we've actually been looking at trying to figure out how we can connect students together before they get here with businesses, because we know that there are students that go to school in one area of Maine, but want to intern in another, and we'd be happy to sublet to someone else. So we've been looking into some of those things. We'd be happy to talk to businesses who think they might have an in with me to kind of pilot something. But it's going to continue to be a challenge, but it's a challenge everywhere. And I want people to keep remembering that too, right? I mean, finding housing in New York City to intern is just as challenging as finding housing here for the summer. So don't let that be like a dividing line for you. Like, I don't know where I would house an intern, so I'm not going to get one. Like, there's certainly opportunities to recruit students who are already here in different capacities.
Great, thank you. Anything to add to that, Brittany or Justin?
Yeah, I would say we've also had, along with, reaching out to local universities and things, definitely a great resource is connecting with our existing employee base, referrals, neighbors, family members, things like that has been helpful and successful in the past, as well as, referrals from previous interns. They had a good experience, last summer, and they stayed at X, Y, and Z place. And then one of the other things that we've done, which I fully acknowledge isn't going to work for every company, but our philosophy as a company is a hybrid working model. And so we wanted to translate that to our interns as well. Though we do have an expectation that the first month or so they're living in, in the greater Portland area within commuting distance of the office and interacting with us in person. But other portions of their internship could potentially be done remotely from home if they're from another state or things like that. So sort of creating kind of a hybrid model for them, depending on the role and depending on the the team that they're working on and expectations and a whole host of things. But that's something that we had some success with this summer. And I think that that would be something we would do next summer, because finding a month's worth of housing might be easier than finding 4 or 5 months or what have you. So anyways, other ideas.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I was
go
gonna
ahead,
say that,
Justin.
yeah, the pandemic really helped us realize that there's a lot of things that, whether there's opposition to doing remote work or not, that it's possible. I mean, everyone had to go remote, and then we started interviewing remote and having interns remote, and we were just, everyone came to the early realization that this can work. So, obviously there's going to be instances with some positions that, remote just isn't even possible, but, don't let it be something that takes an internship off the table if remote will definitely work.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take this question that was sent to us by someone who registered, and that is, I would be grateful for your thoughts on expanding and diversifying apprenticeship programs. Where are helpful places to post listings? So I wonder, Kate, could you take a swing at that, please?
Absolutely. So I think it's twofold. One is, and maybe someone can drop in the chat if this is true, if they actually meant apprenticeship or if they were referencing internships. So, I mean, apprenticeship is a whole nother animal. But honestly, there's a lot of money being funneled into apprenticeship in the state of Maine, and it's a great opportunity for students to earn and learn at the same time. Educate Maine just received 2 grants that will be working in combination with some other businesses to help expand apprenticeship. So if anyone's actually interested in apprenticeship and talking about that further, we have some staff that's dedicated to that, working with me, and we're looking to help expand. We're starting to pilot a few things right now, and we are looking to expand that. And typically with apprenticeships, it's not really about posting the jobs, but about building relationships with different schools, universities, CTEs, high schools, and so we can help make that happen. And if we're thinking about diversifying, I guess that's the question. Is the heart of the question about diversifying the population that you're
That's how I took it.
that you're reaching out to? Yeah. So, I mean, I think, first of all, assuming that the question is about racial diversity, which is a big assumption, but I want to just challenge everyone on the call to think about diversity as first-generation college students, immigrants, adult learners, in addition to LGBTQ, ability, like anytime that you can actively engage and recruit and employ in all of those areas, you're creating more welcoming diversity in your space. And, the feeling of belonging builds in your community, right? So I want to first just put that out there, in that if you can be looking at all of those things, then you're just increasing that opportunity to welcome people into your space. There's no fix. It's just like recruiting at every level, whether it's interns or full-time employees or leadership. You have to put in the work and be out there in the communities you want to engage with. But I think the 2 things that I would say is look at your practices and look at your job postings. And in particularly, like, who are you inviting in and who you're excluding? And I'll just give one example, which is, like, do you require like junior level standing in your job postings? Do you say that you have to be junior level because you just eliminated every community college student in the state? Right. And so that one word of saying junior is something that they will not achieve in a college, in a community college. And so where have you been excluding where you didn't even recognize it? And so thinking about could you say, if your goal for saying that is that you want to make offers for full time, could you say that you want to talk to, you're interested in students within 1 year of graduation, right? And so flipping the conversation a little bit, and that doesn't specifically say that that's going to diversify your population in any one particular way. But if you can think about other pieces of the puzzle where you can expand your reach just by expanding the total population that you're reaching out to, you're going to start to diversify more. And so, I think one of the other things would be, like, do you list learning outcomes in your job postings for internships? Or are you just listing job requirements and tasks? Like, are you actively telling students that that you're expecting them to learn and they're not going to know everything when they get there? Because that's going to definitely expand the pool of students that you're getting. And I saw that myself as soon as I started listing that as like one line. Learning outcomes are expected to be this. A lot of them are the same as the tasks, right? But when you put it that way, students know they don't have to know how to do everything in the task list, that that they're going to be learning on the job. And so just encourage people to think about how they can expand the pool more than thinking about how can you target specific audiences, because that's hard. That's hard to do. Like, you can go on campus and look for student groups or things like that. But I encourage you to think about expanding the pool because that's going to expand the diversity. And then just one small plug in that in Maine Career Catalyst offers equip stipends. So it's our equity and internships program. And we offer $1,000 stipends to BIPOC students to help reduce barriers to accepting an internship. So you still have to get them in the pipeline. But we do offer that opportunity for BIPOC students who want to accept a job but have a financial barrier to being able to do that, whether it's transportation or housing, like we've been talking about, technology, anything that would be supporting them to be able to just focus on their internship, not have to take a second job, be able to accept the position in general. So we offer that. And we've been really successful in helping to get more students to accept the positions that they've been offered. So still have to get them in the pipeline, but we can help get them on the job, hopefully.
Great, thank you. A lot of good advice there. Thank you. Strawberry, how about if we take one of the questions in the queue?
Sure. So with the competition to secure interns, can very small businesses or solo entrepreneurs be attractive enough compared to a large company to realistically be able to get an intern? Small businesses have very little bandwidth, so is it worth their time to compete for an intern?
I can jump in. I would say yes, plus yes, yes. I think that I think we all know that a work experience is very different at a small company than at a larger company. Neither is good or bad or better or worse, but they are very different. And so I think really talking about what you can offer as a small business. Maybe that means you're going to be involved in a lot of additional things. Maybe it's more of a generalist type role where you might get to learn about many different job responsibilities, especially if you're an intern who doesn't really want to know exactly what they want to do. Maybe they want to spend 3 weeks on this project and 3 weeks on that project, and smaller organizations have a lot of opportunities there. And then I would also say culture too. The culture looks a little bit different at small companies than at large companies. Again, neither is better or worse, but I think it's something to talk about, and you can really market and share. And I think that gives you a lot of leverage, especially when you're talking with interns about what you can offer them. Smaller team sizes too, in a lot of cases, like that might be something that someone's really excited about. And something that you can market and share as you think about your internships.
And I'll just jump in and say that Maine Career Catalyst is a great resource to help with that too. We work with big and small businesses, but as we start to grow, we see a lot more solo entrepreneurs. We had a couple of them this summer and other really small nonprofits. And as we work with probably more than half of our employers that we work with have 1 to 2, maybe 3 interns. And when you start talking about those numbers, having opportunities for those students to go and still have experiences with larger organizations, hear from more people, or just meet up with other students, right? Because they're the only intern in your office. Giving them opportunities to go meet up with other students and see other small businesses and other interns that are working for small organizations can be really helpful and less isolating. So that's one of the opportunities that we can bring to smaller businesses.
You froze, Kate. There we go. There, you're back.
Close one.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now let me, since you're on the screen, Kate, one of the questions that was submitted with our registrations asked is, do interns always have to be paid? So I know that the Department of Labor says, yes, you can't have somebody just there for the experience. They need to be able to walk away with something tangible, a paycheck, or sometimes qualified academic credit will work. But what's your answer to that question?
Yeah, the Department of Labor has a lot of rules.
Yes.
We all know that. I mean, there are exceptions for small businesses and some nonprofits, but generally, the general rule is if someone's doing work that would otherwise be done by a paid employee, then you're going to have to pay them. And unpaid is really the exception, not the rule. But to partner with Maine Career Catalyst, we actually require that employers pay their interns. I think it's a critical piece of the puzzle to show value and reduce barriers for entry into our workforce. If we're not paying, it takes out a whole field of people who wouldn't otherwise be able to participate, right? But there are opportunities out there. So whether it is, there's definitely other opportunities. I think Brittany kind of connected to one, I think earlier, Innovate for Maine is a great resource. If you're a startup, if you're doing an innovative project, you can put in and they'll actually pay for your whole intern. There's opportunities in the aquaculture space for interns to be paid in place. There are opportunities at some of the private universities and some of the public universities. I just talked to someone at UMaine Orono yesterday that started a fellowship program. So that if there are really small opportunities at nonprofits or other organizations that do qualify, that you can they have some pools of cash that can help pay interns. I know that the Bioscience Association of Maine offers stipends to bioscience interns, but they're all limited, right? And they're student based, and oftentimes they're placed with you. So overall, yes, you're going to need to pay them, but there are opportunities if you don't have those funds that you could go seek out, and I'd be happy to chat with people if they're looking to be pointed in a direction.
Great, thank you. How about another question from the queue, Strawberry?
Sure. You seem to focus on younger students. Do you also include folks who might be considering job changes or who have been out of the job market for a while?
I always think of internships as having an academic connection. But
yeah, I would say don't let that limit you. I think that's pretty common that, that's something that we kind of make assumptions on what interns might look like. But that certainly isn't something that we use as a limitation. We're certainly open and excited about anyone at any sort of point in their career interested in an internship. I think at least I've found it's hard to get access to those people, if that is the right way. How do we make sure that we're marketing and selling to those people? Because again, we spend a lot of time at, colleges and universities and career fairs and things like that. Love to hear if Kate or Justin have any ideas or suggestions. But I would say that it is absolutely something that is really impactful and very beneficial to the business, not only for the potential intern as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say this year, we had actually a pretty significant influx in folks that, weren't in college or recent graduates. I mean, we had some folks that were doing career changes, and, I don't know that I have any necessarily any tips, because a lot of that gets filtered out before it gets to my level. But I think us offering more and more of the remote setting type stuff really opened up the world to just anybody and everybody, right? You didn't have to feel like you had to be tied down to Maine or any of the other states, or near an office that we have in any other states. That now you could really be based anywhere, and location wasn't really a necessarily discriminating factor as it could have been before, if we were requiring people to be local to an office.
Okay, interesting. And let's take that last question in the queue.
Sure. What are the resources for a small, totally volunteer, not-for-profit, which does not have any money for a paid intern?
Kate may have already sort of addressed that. I mean, go ahead, Kate. Just go to
I don't know that I
Maine,
have
right?
any. I don't know that I have any big, brilliant idea. But again, I mean, you can also think about something part-time, right? So even if you can't afford to bring on someone full-time, if you're, that small and you're thinking like, I don't really have the funds, is there an opportunity for you to bring on someone a couple hours a week? There's a lot of students out there who would like to gain a little bit more experience, especially if it could be remote or during the school year. Often in the school year, they're only working 5 to 10 hours a week. So, is there something that you could be doing where you could pay, but it would only be a little bit, and get some experience? So there's opportunity out there if you can get creative.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. I thought this was a really interesting conversation, and I think it was especially helpful for folks who were tuning in to get some insight and some advice on how to make the most out of internships within their workplaces. So thank you to the audience. We got a lot of really good questions for this topic. And thank you to our sponsors. We wouldn't be able to do this without you, but most especially, thank you to our panelists. You guys were terrific. And for people who are still in the audience, this was recorded, and we will send you a link to it so you can refer to it as you consider what you're going to do with interns coming into 2023. So thank you again, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
Thank you.